Well, we're about to give you the fantasy information now. Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com is set to join us here on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. And if you have a question for Jeff, you can text in your fantasy football questions, 609-403-0973. An operator is standing by to take your questions, right? We're compiling all the questions. And it's week one, so people have questions like, do I start this guy? Do I start that guy? Do I go with this play? Do I go with that play? We got a game tonight, and we got two very good teams tonight. One, which is the Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears. We have a good defense, so we'll get Jeff's opinion on who should play tonight. Plus, we'll fire a couple of questions at him on quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. We'll get some listener questions in, and then Jeff will tell us some guys that he is advising that are in your lineup this week. In other words, if you have these particular players on your roster, they should be in your lineup for this week. So if you have questions for Jeff, 609-403-0973 is the text board. Jeff Pasquino is back for another year of fantasy football. What is going on, Jeff? How are you, my friend?
Oh, it's never dull when the NFL season rolls around. We're ready to go.
We are ready to go, and we got a game tonight. So, first off, Jeff, do you like the Thursday night game for fantasy purposes tonight? Which guys in tonight's Thursday night game should be in your lineups this weekend?
Yeah, opening day is a little bit different than normal Thursday day because you've got time to prepare. So I think both teams are viable for fantasy. I think you got a couple of players for each team. Not so much the quarterbacks, because the Bears are a top 10 defense. The Bears and the Packers are slated to score a little bit lower than most teams. There's 12 teams, according to Las Vegas, that are going to get 25.5 or more points this week. Basically, all the teams that are big favorites except for Baltimore. And you throw in Tampa, Kansas City, and the Rams. But for as far as tonight, I think we really want to see what the Chicago running back situation is. I think both Cohen and Montgomery are solid running back 2 flex candidates. You also got to have Aaron Jones in there as a running back 2 for Green Bay. You have 3 wide receivers for these guys as well. You've got the Devontae Adams is a solid wide receiver 1 for Green Bay, but both Marquez, MVS, I call him, Vandis Scanling is much easier to say just MVS, and Allen Robinson are also options. But the tight end shouldn't be overlooked either. Chicago's got a bunch of options that they're going to be throwing out there, but I want to see how Jimmy Graham's going to play. He's a borderline tight end 1 on a tough position to roster this year, so I want to see how they incorporate him in the offense.
All right, there's some plays for tonight from Jeff. Let's get some quarterback questions to start this baby off. And we know about a lot of the heavy hitters. We try to avoid the big names like Mahomes and Watson and Breeze and, those type of guys. So we try to get those middle-of-the-road guys where you're kind of making the decision. Because a lot of times, Jeff, people will draft a quarterback, and then the guy on the bench, ended up having to make a choice all the time. Do I go with this guy or do I go with that guy? And that's where Jeff kind of comes in and helps. So what about a guy like Dak Prescott this year? He's going up against the Giants. Do you like him in fantasy week 1?
I think he's a borderline quarterback 1. We have him at quarterback 13 overall this week. The question is, how much fight are the Giants going to put up? Dallas needs to win this game. They have an early, very easy schedule for the first 3 weeks, but Zeke's just getting back into the fold. How much are they going to use him? How much are they going to throw to Amari Cooper? How are they going to blend in Jason Witten? There's a lot of up and down question marks about the Dallas offense. I like Dak, but I don't love him as a quarterback start this week.
Okay, a couple guys. Rookie, Murray. Obviously, the team doesn't seem to be all that good. Kyler Murray, though, he's intriguing. Fantasy owners like quarterbacks that can run, do things with their legs, but should Murray be in your week 1 lineup?
If you drafted him, you probably got him as your quarterback 1, and against a home game against Detroit, you're not going to get much better spots to use him. So, yes, I think he's in the lineup this week. I do want to see how Arizona blends in all those different wide receivers they have, including Michael Crabtree.
I know last night we were kind of laughing at one of the guys in our drafts, one of our weekend hosts and fill-in guys, Deshaun Hendricks. He picked Lamar Jackson pretty early. He thinks he's going to get a lot of fantasy points. Do you like him as a fantasy starter week 1?
Speaking of quarterbacks that can run and have high floors as a result, Lamar Jackson against Miami is a top 7 quarterback this week. He's definitely a solid start, and most weeks he will be. He's a sleeper. Ball just put in a different offense. Nobody knows what they're doing. It could I don't say it's going to be a Kansas City Chiefs situation, but I think you could kind of see some parallels there. Jackson's very underrated.
Luck is out. Brissett is in. Is he a fantasy starter for you?
No, not against the Chargers, and not until we see how that moves. Everybody on the Colts moves down except for Marlon Mack, who moves up.
Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. Week 1, ask your fantasy questions on the text board, 609-403-0973. Jeff and Ryan are compiling all the questions. We'll fire them off at Pasquino here in just a minute. Let's move to the running backs. Some interesting names. I want to get your take on Le'Veon Bell because new offense, he was a fantasy star. Is he going to be that same player with the Jets?
His coach wants to ease him in, but Bell has basically come out and said, please just take the reins off and let me play. He's chomping at the bit to get out there. Buffalo is a solid matchup for him. Bell's going to probably see like 20 touches, including his receptions. I think he's a top 5 running back this week and a solid running back 1.
All right. I want to go under the radar a little bit here. Let's go to Singletary in Buffalo. They cut LaShawn McCoy to give Singletary the job. Should he be a guy that owners have and play?
See, I think Singletary is going to get worked in, but I would disagree with that he's got the job. Frank Gore actually looked pretty decent. And the guy, I don't know how he keeps doing it, but he never ages. So Frank Gore and Singletary are going to split work there, along with Yeldon. They're going to do another committee, and no one's going to know what to do fantasy-wise. Plus, the quarterback runs, too.
That's right. Allen's a guy who moves. All right, Gordon's not signed. Who are you playing in San Diego?
It's going to be a split between Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson. We have Eckler as a high running back, too. It's going to be kind of a hot hand, and I think the Chargers are going to get up early. You see both those guys get about 15 touches this week.
What is the running back situation in Houston this week?
It's all Duke Johnson. They traded a third-rounder for that guy. He is the top option. They're going to use him. Forget Carlos Hyde. I mean, Carlos Hyde is a nice backup, but it's all Duke Jackson right there.
What is the running back situation in San Francisco?
A lot of people are looking at Coleman, but really Matt Breida is listed as the top running back there, and he's got a lot of upside, and he could be available. He might even be on some waiver wires. I think he's a solid running back flex option in a sneaky shootout possibility with Tampa Bay.
Okay, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. We're going to move to wide receivers. If you have a question for Jeff, 609-403-0973. Get your text message questions in as we'll fire off your listener questions in just a minute. Here's some wide receivers for you guys out there. All right, let's go and start with Amari Cooper. He was not so good in Oakland. He was much better in Dallas. Where is he fantasy-wise?
I think he's a solid wide receiver, too. Again, this week it's a little bit iffy because we're not sure how much fight the Giants are going to be putting up. Golden Tate suspended. They're not going to – they can't do much besides Barkley, and the quarterback is probably going to be benched by the end of the year. So I think that Dallas is a solid play this week, but nobody jumps off the page to be a stud this week. Cooper's a solid wide receiver, too, though.
Tyler Boyd was very good, but he was the number 2 guy last year. No A.J. Green for at least half the year. So do you like Boyd as the number 1 guy there?
Oddly enough, we have him right next to Amari Cooper in the wide receiver, too, and they're in that top 15, 16. He's going to get some chances this week against Seattle. It's a rough place to visit. The Bengals are going to be facing an uphill battle. Seattle's almost a 10-point favorite. I like Seattle in that game a lot, but I think Tyler Boyd's going to see plenty of targets.
All right, Juju Smith-Schuster, he had Antonio Brown all last year for the most part. Now he's by himself. Will you get the same production?
I think you're going to see plenty of production. Ben Roethlisberger led all quarterbacks last year with a number of dropbacks by a large margin, almost 700 pass attempts. So I think Juju's going to see plenty of work, but I think you got McDonald at tight end. I think you got Moncrief and James Washington at wide receiver. The Steelers use a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Look for all those guys to see plenty of action.
Couple quickies for you. What about Calvin Ridley? Everybody talk about Jones. Ridley was a rookie touchdown machine last year. Do you get similar production in week 1?
He's a wide receiver 3 this week. They split a lot of work, including Mohamed Sanu. They use a lot of 3 wide receivers again in Atlanta. And I like the Falcons overall and Matt Ryan, but it's a little bit of a tough matchup against Minnesota.
All right, Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com answering your week 1 fantasy football questions at 609-403-0973 on the text board. You guys have been texting your questions in for week number 1. Ryan and Jeff have been compiling all those questions. Let's get some listener questions for Jeff.
All right, Jeff, we have someone asking if you would play in a flex spot Tariq Cohen tonight versus the Packers or James Washington Sunday night versus the Patriots.
Well, Washington and the Steelers are expected to do a lot more, but I like Cohen. I do think Cohen, like, if you want to lock up some points early, and the nice thing about playing a guy on Thursday is you know where you need to go later in your week with your lineup. If he does great, you can go more conservative. If he does poorly, you can go more aggressive.
All right, Jeff, is Crosby a good play for tonight, or should they go with Robbie Gould?
We're talking kickers now, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be banned for asking questions for that.
Listen, man, it's a listener question. You got to give the listeners
It's like
what
Ron
they want.
Burgundy over here. He just reads off the prompter.
I hear you.
I think Crosby is a solid veteran kicker, and it's going to be opening night. He's not going to have any nerves. He's a solid play.
All right, for a flex spot, Jeff, would you go with Alshon Jeffrey, Jarvis Landry, or Courtland Sutton?
I think Alshon Jeffrey is the play there. I think the Eagles are going to put up a lot of points this week, and he's a solid wide receiver 3 this week.
All right, another listener wants to know, I have AB. How much trouble am I in?
Okay, so that I was waiting for that to be broached. So you could be in a lot, but let's wait and see how it plays out. I would go and pick up Tyrell Williams as the wide receiver 2. Hunter Renfrow should be also as a possibility if you can squeeze him in as a backup for this week. If you really want to secure it, play another wide receiver 3 this week and just wait and see how it plays out. But odds are he's going to be suspended in week 1. The sleeper guy to pick up for Oakland this week, considering all the wide receivers, they're going to be a mess, is Darren Waller at tight end. I think he's going to see about 10 targets from Derek Carr and be a sleeper tight end 1 this week.
Continuing on the how messed up are we if we have Antonio Brown theme, someone asks, would it make sense at this point to trade Antonio Brown for Melvin Gordon?
Interesting.
I would not do that. I think Melvin Gordon could be out until week 9 or week 10, if that, and that's basically we're getting half of the year as a service just to move his contract along. I don't know if I would do that, and Antonio Brown's value is extremely depressed right now. If you could get Melvin Gordon, I can understand that's about comparable value, but I think you're going to get something out of AB in the first 2 months.
All right, D.D. Westbrooks or Landry in the flex spot?
D.D. Westbrook is a very, very solid wide receiver and a sleeper guy for Jacksonville. I think that could be another sleeper shootout with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are only a few point favorite in Jacksonville. Let's see how Foles plays, but D.D. Westbrook is his wide receiver 1. And don't sleep on DJ Chark, as a wide receiver 2 for that offense, as a guy to store on your bench.
Hey, Jeff, earlier I asked you a question, but I didn't give you all the context. I asked you about whether you would start Alshon, Jarvis Landry, or Courtland Sutton out of flex in a PPR league. And I'm just curious if me saying PPR changes that for you. Obviously, Landry catches a ton of passes in that offense. I didn't know if that context would change it for you.
Yeah, in previous years, I would start to lean a little bit more towards Landry, but there's so many more mouths to feed for the Browns. I don't know how many targets he's going to see, so I'm going to stick with Alshon Jeffrey, who is the number 1 wide receiver for the Eagles, although Deshaun is number 2.
All right, we have a good one here. 2 running backs in a flex spot. Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay, Sony Michel, Jarvis Landry, Justin Jackson, Dion Lewis, and Marquise Brown. Did you get all that?
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Right.
Wow. Okay. I like Mark Ingram, and I do like Phillip Lindsay because I think Oakland's going to be a mess. Was it pick 2? Was that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 and a flex.
2 running backs and a flex.
So you got
he
Marquise
basically wants
Brown,
you to do his whole lineup.
Yeah, basically.
So I'm putting Sony Michel in that lineup too because that's supposed to be a high-scoring game with Pittsburgh.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. We'll try to get more questions in next week. But before we let you run, Jeff, who are some plays, some guys maybe under the radar that you want to make sure are in lineups this week?
Well, a quarterback and a wide receiver duo that you probably need to pay attention to are Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston is our quarterback 3 this week against San Francisco. And Chris Godwin, I don't know if he's available in many leagues anymore. The sleeper is probably worn off, but he's top 20 potential, pretty pushy Mike Evans. Those guys are going to see a lot of targets. Running backs, there's a lot to choose from. I think one of my favorites all year long has been Latavius Murray. The Saints had 2 running backs in the top 6 2 years ago when they had Ingram and Kamara. I think Murray filled that spot and could be a running back 1 sleeper this year. So he's a great pickup. I also like Jalen Richard as a pickup for Oakland because they are running out of people to throw the ball to if AB is suspended. Ito Smith is a nice sleeper as well, but we mentioned Matt Breida. I think that's a guy you should go out and get for San Francisco. wide receiver, I mentioned Tyrell Williams. I want to see personally how the Arizona wide receivers shake out. I also see if Demaryius Thomas comes off the bench. They re-signed him in New England. He may be a sleeper wide receiver to pick up, along with Josh Gordon, who is probably going to be their wide receiver one for the Patriots, who keep doing it every year.
Yeah, last year I was all over Josh Gordon. He burnt me so bad I wasn't getting anywhere near him this year. But there you go, Week 1, fantasy football. There's your help from Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com. We'll try to get more questions in for Jeff next week. And, of course, Jeff, good luck to you.
Good luck, everybody, and enjoy the game.